And welcome back to Comic Frontline, everybody. I am Brant Fowler, aka the Gonzo Goose, back with you for another Convergence review. This time it's Convergence, Plastic Man and the Freedom Fighters, number 1 of 2. It's written by Simon Oliver with art by John McCrae and colors by John Calise. And this story takes place in Earth X, and it, of course, features Plastic Man and the Freedom Fighters. They're under the dome, so they have no powers, and because the dome came down, the Nazis won the war, and they've taken over, and the opening scene is the Statue of Liberty with a staff in her hand, and Nazi symbols plastered all over it. So it's sorry, got a message. Had to check that. It starts off with Plastic Man narrating, talking about, you know, just that, the Nazis taking over, and he narrates the entire story basically. And then it starts in the present, and then it goes, okay, going back 1 year earlier, and he's kind of breaking the fourth wall a little bit there, but then he tells us the whole story, how they were fighting the Nazis, and they were winning and everything, except for they couldn't beat the Silver Ghost, and in that last moment their powers failed, and all this stuff. So one thing leads to another, and obviously I don't want to give the whole story away, but as their powers disappear, they get into a little bit of trouble, and they're all taken captive. When the dome falls, of course, they get their powers back, and we see that it's going to be a three-way battle between Silver Ghost, them, and whoever they're facing from the other city, which is quite the spectacle there. The art was okay in the book. I loved when Plastic Man's powers came back, because he was chained up against the wall, and the way they illustrated his arm becoming elasticized again. And I love the shot of Uncle Sam in a wheelchair after the American spirit's gone, and he's just decrepit and kind of fading away. So there were some solid moments in the art, but overall I thought it was just I don't want to say average. I don't want to be insulting to the artist, obviously, but I just thought it was a decent, solid job. It wasn't spectacular. It wasn't bad. It was just solid. There were a few panels that were a little bit iffy to me with some anatomy issues. There was one panel of the Silver Ghost leaning out of a helicopter, and his legs looked like they were twice as long as the rest of his entire body, and it looked a little bit off to me personally. But it's a stylistic choice, and it's just not one that messed with me. There was a panel up towards the beginning of the book, though, of like New York City, and there's a hot dog vendor and everything, and that was a beautiful shot. So it was just a little bit hit and miss for me. The story, honestly, I like the Freedom Fighters. I've liked certain depictions of them over time, but there's something about Nazi stories that just do not appeal to me. I'm tired of it, I guess. And I know it's an important part of our history as a nation, and everything, but it feels like it's revisited so many times. And in this particular case, it was just it was a little old hat for me, and I was kind of tired of that same thing. And I understand that it's the Freedom Fighters; that's kind of what they do. But the narration from Plastic Man, it felt like I was, being given a history lesson as opposed to reading a book. It was all narration, and it just didn't jive with me personally. So I was really disconnected in that way. But still kind of solid overall. I can see the merits of the story. Especially if you're a Plastic Man fan, because it kind of goes into his history as the ill and that kind of thing. And if you're a Freedom Fighters fan, there wasn't much of the Freedom Fighters. This really centered on centralized. I don't know why I said that. Centered on Plastic Man for the most part throughout the entire book, and maybe that's why I'm not the hugest Plastic Man fan. So the versions of the Freedom Fighters I like is kind of sans Plastic Man. So yeah, it was okay, but it just wasn't my thing. So, just thinking about the art and thinking about the story itself, I don't know, some of the art in the book was really nice, but it was so hit and miss that I have to give this one a 2.5 stars out of 5 for me personally. It was one of the weaker Convergence books for my taste, unfortunately. So, but yeah, there you have it. 2.5 stars for Plastic Man and the Freedom Fighters #1. And that's going to wrap up this review. Check out all the other Convergence reviews and all the other content here on Comic Frontline's YouTube channel. And of course, check out comicfrontline.com, comicrelated.com, zone4podcast.com. Together, all your number one source for all your comic news, reviews, podcasts, and so much more. And if you feel so inclined, check out lastnumberpress.com for what I'm up to. Don't forget to tune in tonight and every Tuesday night for the live show as we do our top 5s and talk Convergence and Secret Wars, and we're going to talk Avengers Age of Ultron this week and so much more. So, with that all being said, thanks for watching, and as always, I'll see you in the next video.